All right. Welcome to the night 3 of Confidence Reset. And if you're here live, type live in the comment section. If you're watching the replay later, then type replay. Simple as that. Over the last couple of nights, we've been looking at confidence from slightly different perspective than what most people talk about. Because most of the time when people talk about confidence, they talk about it as if it's like a feeling, something that appears when things are going really well. And something that disappears when pressure shows up. But it's not something you either have or you don't. Over the last 2 nights, we've been exploring something different. Confidence isn't just a feeling. Confidence is conditioning. Let that land for a moment. The idea alone changes everything. Because if confidence is a feeling and you have to wait for it, but if confidence is conditioning, you can train it, you can reinforce it, you can deliberately build it. On night 1, we talked about something really important. Confidence doesn't disappear. It just simply stops being reinforced. Think about that for a moment. Nobody wakes up one morning and then suddenly kind of goes, oh, I'm an unconfident person. This isn't how it works. What actually happens is much more quieter than that. Small hesitations, day by day, start appearing. You hold back slightly in a conversation. You delay sending a message, or you overthink something rather than just doing it. Individually, those moments, they don't really seem very significant. They're tiny, they're micro moments. But repeated over time, they begin to compound. And eventually you get to a point where those repeated moments begin to feel like your personality. People start saying things like, I've always been like this. Or someone overthinks things. I'm just an overthinker. I have a very active mind. Or I'm just not that confident of a person. It isn't personality. These are practiced hesitations. Anything that's practiced can be retrained. That's the good news. That's the great news. Because hesitation is something that you have practiced. Confidence is something that you can also practice. It also means that confidence becomes something practical, not mysterious, not random, not something that you find in a self-help book. It's something that you practice. The last night we took that idea one step further. We started talking about identity under pressure. Because pressure is what reveals us about our stuff. It's something very interesting about human behavior. Pressure doesn't remove your capability. Pressure reveals your conditioning. When pressure appears, you don't suddenly become somebody else. You reveal what you have already practiced. If you've practiced hesitation, if you've practiced anxiety, then that's what's going to show up. If you've practiced certainty, pressure produces certainty. Now, that idea changed the way I thought about confidence completely. Now, I didn't learn it from a book. I learned it the hard way. Years ago, when I first started out performing hypnosis, I had a genuine fear of public speaking, and I mean a proper fear. The kind where your heart races, your mouth is dry. It's just standing in front of a group. It's the kind of thing that sends your mind crazy. Everything goes blank. Everything in my body, every instinct was telling me to avoid this situation. Somehow, I ended up agreeing to do a hypnosis show for a charity night. I knew I needed to do it to get over that fear of public speaking. My first ever show in front of a room full of bikers. Now, if you've never stood up in a room full of bikers before, let me explain something to you. They're not a polite audience that sit there quietly, hoping that you're going to succeed. They're watching you carefully. And if you look nervous, they're going to know. So there I was backstage, about to walk out, something I've never really done before. My heart's pounding, my hands are sweating, and my brain was doing that thing where it starts listing all the ways that this could go wrong. What if it doesn't work? What if nobody responds? What if they don't like me? What if they just laugh me off stage? That moment right there is the moment most people back out. That's but they've taught themselves out of the opportunity. They convince themselves they're not ready. They decide maybe another time will be better. Maybe when I've done more training, when I've done another course, when I've done another thing, they wait until they're ready. But something interesting happened in that moment. The show started, I walked out on stage, and once the process began, something changed. The volunteers started responding, the audience started responding and laughing, the room started building momentum, and suddenly something inside here clicked. Once you step into the moment, confidence begins to follow, not before, after. That night changed my relationship with confidence forever because I realized confidence isn't something that you feel first. Confidence is something you build through actions. You move first, then the feeling follows. Once you realize that idea, confidence stops being mysterious. It becomes something that you can train. Now, later in my career, I was performing pubs and clubs in Northern England, which were always an interesting audience. But that lesson came back again. I was in one of those rooms that can be chaotic, people talking, people drinking, people not really paying attention. But if you lose control of that room, the show's going to fall apart really quickly. I remember one night walking onto the stage, and in about 2 minutes, I realised that the room they was not with me. People are talking, they're laughing amongst themselves, they're on their night out, they're not bothered about me. No one was really paying attention. And that same moment appeared again. That internal voice that says this could go wrong and it could go badly wrong quickly. But this time something was different because I'd learned something along the way. I'd done many shows by now. And I realized that confidence is created through behavior. So instead of speeding up and talking fast through nerves and adrenaline, I slowed it down. Instead of shrinking, I stood taller. Instead of forcing the room, I controlled my breathing and my pace. And within about 30 seconds to a minute, which felt like a lifetime, the energy of the room started to shift. People stopped talking. They started watching. The volunteers were responding, and the show could build momentum. The moment reinforced everything that I know to be absolutely true. Confidence is not something you wait for. Confidence is something you create through your posture, through your breathing, through your behavior, and through repetition. Now, why does this matter outside of a stage environment? So the exact same principle applies in every area of your life, whether it be business, leadership, communication, decision making, even relationships. Confidence is the absolute foundation for all of those things, but it's not the starting point. Confidence is the result of behavior repeated over time. Once you realize that, something interesting begins to happen. You stop waiting for confidence to just magically appear. You start doing things to create it deliberately. Cheers for those comments there, Brian. So yeah, if you do have comments, then do feel free to drop them in the chat as well. So over the last couple of days, we've started kind of talking about this confidence reset series. Have you noticed a moment maybe in the past or even during this process where you almost hesitated, but then you caught yourself? Maybe you were sending a message that you've been delaying, you were putting off. Maybe it was about speaking up in a Teams meeting or a Zoom meeting or even an in-person meeting. Think of a time when you would normally overthink. And if that's happened to you at all, just type yes in the comment section or give me a thumbs up. Yeah. So because that moment right there, that tiny moment where you catch the hesitation, this is where identity begins to change. Not when everything else feels perfect, when your motivation is high, But when you start to feel that pressure, that's the moment, because it shows you something. It shows you that hesitation is not who you are, something you practiced. And if hesitation can be practiced, confidence can also be practiced. That's what most people misunderstand about confidence. They think it's loud. They think confidence means dominating conversations. You know, for my American friends, you know, the louder they are, the more confident they feel. But real confidence is much quieter than that. Real confidence is control. Control of your body language, control of your breathing, your pacing, your behavior. It's the ability to remain steady when pressure appears. That's the kind of confidence that's something you can train, like a physical skill, like going to the gym, like strength, performance. So what I want you to do right now, and it's just a short little exercise, nothing complicated. It's a simple reset. Confidence changes when physiology changes. Your body influences your mind more than most people realize. When your posture contracts, when you try to get smaller in that situation, your breathing shortens, your thinking narrows, and your voice speeds up. Your authority disappears. The opposite is also true. When your posture expands, when you take up more space, your certainty expands. When your breathing is slow and controlled, your thinking becomes clear. Your speech becomes steady, and people listen. People listen differently. So let's reset that for a moment. Sit back, stand, make yourself as comfortable as you can, but straighten your posture. That's right. Not rigid, just upright. Taking a slow breath in and then exhale out. And think about that real situation coming up in the next few days. Think about something that would normally trigger that anxiety or hesitation. A conversation, a meeting, that person at work, a decision you've been putting off. I want you to see that situation clearly in your mind. Think about it. Where are you? Who's there? What's happening around you? Now, normally when people imagine these situations, something happens in the body. You may notice that your posture starts to tighten a little bit. Your breathing becomes shallow and up here rather than down here. And your mind starts racing. That's the condition of hesitation. We're going to change that conditioning. Once more, I want you to straighten that posture. Sit straight, as if a string is pulling you up right from the top of your head. Slow your breathing down again. Relax those shoulders, roll them back and down. And now internally, I want you to just say this sentence. It's simple. All I want you to do is just say to yourself, I've handled worse than this. Say it again in your mind or out loud. I've handled worse than this. Notice what happens when you repeat that idea. It shifts your perspective because it reminds you of something important. You've already dealt with difficult situations before. You've dealt with loads of difficult situations before. You've already handled pressure before. You've already navigated uncertainty before. The situation you're imagining is not new. It's simply just another moment where you apply the same capability. And now I want you to imagine yourself stepping into that situation, speaking clearly, not rushing, holding eye contact, and finishing your sentence calmly. Imagine responding rather than reacting. Imagine maintaining control of your breathing, your posture. This mental rehearsal matters more than most people realize. The hypnotist will know that your imagination is far more powerful than your logical brain. It's not just a physical repetition, mental repetition. Every time you rehearse a behavior internally, you're reinforcing that pattern. When those patterns are repeated consistently, your identity begins to shift. You stop thinking of yourself as someone who hesitates, and you start experiencing yourself as someone who moves forward, someone who takes action. Now, this is the part where most people stop. And they do something like this once, and they feel good for a few minutes, and then life takes over again. It happens. Life gets in the way. Work happens, deadlines happen, responsibilities happen. And then those old patterns slowly return. Not because people lack potential, but because they kind of lack structure. Serious professionals don't rely on motivation, they rely on systems. You don't go to the gym once and expect permanent strength. I've tried. You've got to go consistently. You don't rehearse a skill once and expect permanent mastery. Confidence works exactly the same way. It's got to be reinforced. You've got to work at it. You've got to change that process. That's why over the years, I've started structuring confidence training in a more deliberate way. Because once you understand the mechanics of confidence, you realize something. It's not mysterious, it's procedural. There are certain behaviors that create certainty. And when you do those moments, it helps build those banks up as well. So when those behaviors is repeated consistently, confidence becomes automatic. You're training that part of your brain. That's the reason why I've created this program that I mentioned earlier. Because what we've done over the last 3 nights is introduce some principles. Those alone don't create long-term change. Structure does. The Confidence on Command program is designed to reinforce exactly what we've been talking about here. It includes a full confidence program, a conditioning session, a nighttime reinforcement version, and you can listen to all that before you go to sleep. In that program as well, you get a workbook that's printable, and this kind of helps you reinforce those ideas. It's like a short guide, and it's called the Confidence Code. None of it's complicated. None of this is complicated. And you know a lot of this stuff already. It's simply structured in a way to help you reinforce the behaviors that build your confidence in whatever realm you're wanting to do that in. Now, because we're doing this week, there's a special deal. It's £19 for the next 7 days rather than the normal £29. And the reason why I've made it available at that price this week is simple. If someone's taken the time to watch these 3 sessions and actually apply the ideas behind them, and I want them to have a real practical way to continue reinforcing them. Now, if you want access to that program, just comment the word "ready" in the comment section, and I'll send you a link to that. No pressure. It's just an option for people that want to keep reinforcing what we've been talking about. Because at the end of the day, confidence compounds, but so does hesitation. So does procrastination. Your identity compounds. The small behaviors that you repeat today shape the person that you're going to become tomorrow. You can drift back into hesitation. You can go back to your old ways. But what's that going to help you achieve? You can take action now and reinforce that confidence deliberately. Both are very simple patterns, and both are patterns that are built through repetition. Are you ready to reinforce it properly? Comment the word "ready" and I'll send you the details. It's simple as that, no pressure. Whichever path you choose it consciously. Because the difference between the person you are today and the person that you'll become over the next few months will not come down to talent. It will come down to repetition. And repetition creates identity. I'd like to thank you for being part of this series. Each month we'll be doing a 3-night mini series just like this on various different topics around the field of confidence. I appreciate you spending the time with me tonight, and I'll see you again soon. Take care.